Hey guys, hope you are all having a great day. Today we finally got out hands on economic data reflecting inflation has surged to 7.9%, another 4-decade high. We have much to discuss about what came out and what this new level of inflation means. Before we start, let me quickly state that I am not a financial advisor, and that all content discussed in this channel is simply information gathered that I deem important for people to know, so that they can make informed decisions. All efforts are aimed to better understand the nature of the current market in anticipation of the greatest squeeze in financial history. Let's dive right in. Inflation climbed to an ugly 7.9% annual rate in the month of February. The main culprit behind this is the high cost of energy and commodity prices which have resulted as a consequence of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. The Labor Department's Consumer Price Index came in at the highest rate it has been since January 1982. The data showed that groceries, restaurant food, transportation and apparel saw increases in price, but gasoline, energy and electricity were the categories with the highest growth in prices. If we were to exclude energy and food prices, consumer inflation would have risen to 6.4% annual rate on February, up from the 6% in January using the exact same variables. Gasoline was up 6.6% from the prior month, for an unadjusted annual increase of 38%. Groceries were up 1.4%, for an annual rate of 8.6%. Housing rental costs rose at a slower rate of 4.7% over the year. Used car prices was the only thing that declined, but it was by a very small amount. As we had mentioned a lot on this channel, we were expecting for prices of inflation to peak sometime early this year. We have been waiting for the rate hikes to take place so that things could get priced in and then slowly start progressing, but the outbreak of the war in Ukraine and the sanctions imposed on Russia have nulled any analysis in late February. Things have changed drastically and now we have a whole myriad of new variables and changing factors to consider when looking and projecting at what the future has for us. Prior to the war, inflation was elevated by the shortage of supplies and brisk demand of goods. As Jerome Powell said during his hearing last month, we are going to see upward pressure on inflation for a while thanks to Russia's role in global energy and other commodity markets. Keep in mind that Powell also said he expects the central bank to raise rates by a 0.25 percentage point during the upcoming March 15 meeting, with additional increases to follow later in the year. We still do not know exactly how many hikes are planned for the rest of the year, but I will assume that due to changing circumstances, the Fed itself doesn't know and is keep a very flexible stance on things. This past Sunday, news outlets announced that the gasoline price average for the country surpasses $4 a gallon for the first time since 2008. So, how are normal everyday people being impacted by these staggering numbers? Well, with energy in particular jumping 25% in February with the good index jumping to 7.9%, households are having to pay an extra $296 per month in expenses. This is most certainly a very worrying number. The daily life has gotten expensive, and based on the outlook of things, it appears that things are nowhere near as bad or hard as they will get. As inflation has heated up, 64% of Americans are literally living paycheck to paycheck right now. Wages are up 5.1% up from the past year, which is trailing behind the pace of inflation. We are seeing the cost of everything blow up out of proportion, and though wages have gone up, the reality is that even if inflation was contained, it would still not be nowhere near enough where they should be to allow for people to live comfortably. If you don't believe me, check this out. A survey of more than 2,600 adults demonstrated that even those earning six figures, 48% of them are now also living paycheck to paycheck. The average household income in 2020 was $67,521, which was already a decrease from 2019. The average income per person in the United States is also $31,133 as of 2019. This pace of growth on these two statistics is really bad, and inflation has pretty much erased the little gains they have made. As experts have announced, the real problem they are facing is elevated inflation. The worst came to pass with inflation growing, but the real issues in the economy will begin happening if inflation is not dealt with in a relative fast manner. If prices remain high, the consequences are going to be disastrous for the economy, and in no scenario do they not lead to an economic recession. So what exactly are experts saying about the future then? Well, let's go over some notable figures. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki predicted a brutal spike in inflation already, and is said to think inflation will worsen as we move on. Russia has made no remarks or made any public intention that they are looking to withdraw their efforts from taking over Ukraine by force. This means that if things are left unchanged, While countries figure out how to deal with the changes in high energy prices, these high inflation levels will move past 8% in the coming months. Furthermore, and more dangerous than just the continuation of high energy prices, there is a threat of Russia's unpredictability. Putin has made it clear to the world that he wants what he wants and will throw his entire country's economy in a gamble to achieve his goals. I made a video recently about the leaked FSB document which detailed the current circumstances that Russia finds itself in. They said officials are acting more emotional than rational, given the unprecedented amount of sanctions that have been imposed on them. People said that Russia is starting to really feel the weight of the actions of Putin, and that internal conflicts could begin surfacing. The report suggested that there is also a probability where Russia might demand the West to take off the sanctions that they have imposed on Russia, and if they don't, Russia will retaliate with an assault on Western countries. As we know very well by now, Russia is not equipped to handle a war with the West. They have barely made any progress in Ukraine as it is. The real threat comes from a possible nuclear war, which is when markets could all crash. Things are getting real hot with this new conflict because things are unpredictable. It is hard for markets to price things in, so investors remain skeptical and unwilling to invest yet. I was asked the other day what my thoughts on nickel's price surge were. As you might have seen, prices for precious metals have been growing. On Tuesday, 3-month contract prices more than doubled on the London Metal Exchange. If you guys don't know, nickel is an important and critical ingredient in battery cells that are used in electric vehicles. With such a dramatic price surge, investors and analysts are now worrying about automakers' ability to make good on their ambitious electric vehicle programs. Companies with more electric vehicle exposure such as Tesla could see serious ramifications for their balance sheets now that nickel has exploded in price. On Tuesday, Morgan Stanley auto analyst Adam Jonas said that the recent increase in nickel represents around a $1,000 increase in the input cost of an average EV in the US, expanding in the same statement that investors need to adjust expectations for automakers' earnings and for electric vehicle sales penetration over the next few years, as nickel's abrupt price could undermine the ambitious plans for EV put forth by global automakers like GM, Ford, Tesla and many others. As you can see, the recent conflict in Ukraine has had a widespread effect on all types of market sectors and has completely shifted the very way we interpreted things to happen. Every investor needs to go back to the drawing board and start from scratch, which leads me back to GameStop and AMC. For some odd reason, the FUD bots have been running rampant on my YouTube comments. They are saying the squeeze is cancelled, to expect GameStop and AMC to go under now that an economic recession is on the way, and to sell your shares. I want to make this the most important segment of the video. I took a look at historical performances for the movie industries, and I can say without a doubt that historically speaking, theaters have done very well during recessions. People turn to movies when the economy goes bad because it allows them a bit of an escape from the hurdles and challenges of life. Tracing data figures all the way back to the Great Depression, we see that theaters have performed very well, with increased ticket numbers, during hard bear markets. Tickets today are becoming more expensive, but as the last 2 blockbuster movies have shown, people are willing to pay the extra cost for these big movie events. This is why Hollywood has been churning out only blockbuster movies in the past decade, because these event movies produce the greatest return on investment. As I explained yesterday, 2022 has a ton of event blockbuster movies, and if a recession does indeed come, AMC is poised to still perform very well. They are on a path of recovery that I don't think anything but a mandated business closure will affect, which is unlikely to happen again. And then we have GameStop. We know that people love playing video games, and during the epidemic which forced people indoors, video game companies produced very profitable numbers. GameStop stands to benefit from a recession because data shows that people are still willing to pay for video games when they cannot go out. On top of this, GameStop is preparing to launch the biggest and best NFT marketplace, which in my opinion, has the best change to become the most dominant force. That, along with them also expanding the merchandise that they sell on their website, has them on a pretty good track to continue growing. The changes that are happening to the economy overall are awful. Millions stand to lose their investments, to lose their jobs and potentially their homes. There is not an ounce of joy to take from a recession coming in, as it leads to more crime, suicides, homelessness, wealth gap and poorer life conditions and expectations. What I do know is that investments in GameStop and AMC are more than likely to remain safe. With so many retail investors pouring money into them with no intent on selling, plus the improvement on fundamentals for these two companies, the only way you can fail in this investment is if you paper hand and sell. Let's now talk about today. The Fed submitted over $1.568 trillion in reverse repo operations today. Dark pool trades for AMC accounted for 54% of the total volume today, while dark pool trades for GameStop accounted for 52% of the total volume today. AMC had a larger amount of buy orders than sell orders, with GameStop also having a larger amount of buy orders than sell orders. Now, let's talk about performance. AMC had a bearish day, losing over 2% for the day. It began trading relatively bearish during the pre-market, trading beneath yesterday's closing price. Upon market opening, AMC began trading very volatile, dipping below 15.20 and then bouncing above 15.80. After that run, AMC began dipping down again, reaching 14.78 as the lowest price of the day. It then began bouncing back up, recovering and closing at 15.32, above the VWAP. As for tomorrow, support will be found at 15, 14.90 and 14.78. Resistance will be met at 15.50, 16 and 16.20. GameStop had a bearish day, losing over 4% for the day. Upon market opening, GME began dipping down, breaking support and falling from 103 to 99 as the main support wall. It traded here beneath the VWAP for the majority of the day. It continued trading sideways until near the end of day, where it bounced up and closed at 100.56, above the VWAP. As for tomorrow, GME will find support at 98, 95 and 93. Resistance will be met at 103, 105 and 107. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. That is all I have for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And most importantly, remember to come join my Discord. If you want to support this channel, I have a Patreon link in the description as well as some one-time donation links for Cash App and PayPal. Thank you again for being a part of this channel. I will continue striving for better content. Enjoy the rest of your day. Keep on buying the dip and to the moon.